this is Persephone, and starting our Dystopian book club because many people were very excited about it, and thank you for that. I'm going to review the first book today, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, How to Heal. Before you ask why this selection, I want to connect you to my previous video where I had a big breakthrough that I realized after having much more success with my adult content businesses and overall advising and helping businesses online that I'm not the person that my parents have been describing until it was instilled on my brain that, hey, I'm antisocial, hey, I'm weird, hey, I'm always going to be unpopular, and so on. And I started to realize that a lot of my issues came from my childhood and they're unresolved and I don't even realize it. So I said I'm going to do some self-help reading, and I'm going to start with books that they go beyond the obvious, because usually when you are like me and you have been reading about narcissism and watching videos and stuff for years, you know most of the material. So this book was a very pleasant surprise because it had information that I didn't find anywhere else, and there was a lot of validation for things that in the past other people around me used to talk like negatively about and say that it's all in my head. So I'm going to share things from the book that I found interesting, and I'm going to give you my final review in the end. So please, there are going to be spoilers, and also I'm not a mental health professional, so there are parts that I'm going to share that they are in the book, and there are parts that they're just my personal opinion, so you're free to judge if you agree with me or not. Okay. The first thing is that I disagree with. The writer, the person that wrote this book, says emotionally immature parents. For me, that's so polite, and they're so undeserving of it, because I would write healing from low IQ cockroach parents, and I'm going to explain why. I think the title is very misleading in a sense of if you are not well versed in psychology, usually you tend to think that immaturity has to do with being childish or being shallow and not with being a monster. And I think that there should have been a more hardcore title to describe the horrors that I'm going to talk about later on. The author starts by mentioning various stories from patients that came to his office, and they all had a lot of problems that they didn't seem related to their childhood. At first glance, they came because they had a relationship breakup, health problems, anger problems, depression, inability to motivate themselves, and a bunch of stuff that you're going to think that there is something else going on. But when the specialist interviewed them and started asking about their childhood, all of the stories had some common factors repeating over and over, and this led him to actually create the term emotionally immature parent that I'm going to talk about. The book is helpful in the sense of it's offering various tests that you can take, and it has a number of sentences that you can agree or disagree, and the more of them that you agree with, the more disordered your parent was. The interesting thing is my case is that my parents ticked every box, and my Asian in-laws ticked every box too, like 10 out of 10, 20 out of 20, which started to be very triggering after some point, because you're thinking, okay, so even if they have a few, they're disordered. If they have all of them, what are they? Like the rainbows of disorders. And I'm going to share here the things that they are very unusual, that they are characteristics that the immature parent possess that I haven't found anywhere else, and they really impressed me. The first thing that I was struggling with for a very long time is concrete thinking or literal thinking. The author says that people who are emotionally immature, they cannot talk about ideas, and they obsess with what is happening around them and what they can actually perceive with their senses. They are the type of person that talks about what they ate, what they wear, where they went, and they cannot actually discuss anything that has substance, and describes a man who was talking to his mother on the phone, and every time he tried to talk about something else, his mother would bring him up to those boring topics. This is literally 99% of the Asian people that I have met. I don't want to sound racist, probably I'm the one that I attract low quality Asian people, but my in-laws are exactly like that. They talk about money, their business, who they met at the church, what you wear, what food you should eat, and there is no abstract thinking. Again, I think that this is a sign of low intelligence and also of low emotional intelligence, because you cannot empathize with the other person's need to talk about, for example, their feelings. But the author is too nice probably to sell and make money. Still, it was validating because I didn't know there is a term for that, and it's called concrete thinking or literal thinking. To not be a total bitch, I'm going to say that in some cases, concrete thinking is a skill. So, if you grew up, let's say, in Jerkwater Heights, with Braden, Caden, and Jaden, who were religious fanatics, and every time you try to express a question or an opinion or be interested in science, they told you things like, it's God's will, God works in mysterious ways, don't question God, and they started to brainwash you to have magical thinking or concrete thinking. It's very possible that it's not your fault and you weren't actually stupid, but you never practiced the skill, so you can talk like that. Still, in my opinion, it's a disability, and I have concluded that I cannot associate with people like that for long periods of time. They drive me crazy, and my response to being harassed is always going to be violence, so I have to excuse myself before this happens. The second thing about the emotionally immature people, in our case parents, that really impressed me is that they said that they love well-defined roles and tradition. They love having authority just because they're old, just because they're parents, just because they're married to you, so you have to stay because divorce is a sin. They say that the more a person is emotionally immature, I'm tired of the term emotionally immature. We're going to say, regressed, underdeveloped, stupid, you can pick, but the lower they are and the more extreme they are, the more they love this strict role pattern, because it's also a very good control tool. Because what are you going to say? Hey, I don't respect you because you are old and you are my mother. Few people have the balls to say that, if any. So by abiding to those roles, they control constantly everyone around them. I could resonate so much with that because in my family, especially my father's paradise would be a modified version of the 50s. And I say modified because he wants women to do all the cooking, all the cleaning, to never talk back, I guess to be sexually subservient, and also to go to the workforce and have a full-time paying job and contribute to the expenses, which is, in my opinion, ridiculous, because if you want to be in the 50s and you're the man, you have to be the provider. You can't have a woman who is a do-it-all, the cook, the chef, raises the children by herself, the mistress, and the full-time worker. She doesn't have 37 hours a day. And my father would always try to discipline me with gender roles, saying, why don't you wear dresses? Why do you have to have autism? And why do you have weird interests? Girls, something like that. Or he would say, women are supposed to have children. This is how it is. Honor tradition, honor this, honor that. Women shouldn't want to travel to other countries and be weird. And it was so oppressive. And I was very happy and very sadistically happy to see that this is a sign of disorder. And I'm not the one disordered here, that I don't like this, and I don't like people to tell me that you should be different because tradition. Do you know what tradition is, in my opinion? First of all, it's a control tool for people like that who just want to oppress you, and second, it's a tool for stupid people who don't want to think. So someone else did the thinking for them, defined a set of rules, and they follow it, similar to sheep that they follow a path in the mountain that has been created before them, and they don't even know why. The third thing that impressed me in the book about emotionally immature people is that the author says that they're extremely afraid of feelings, and every time you try to talk about your feelings, they're not going to accept it. Either they're going to explode, or they're going to avoid it, or they're going to dismiss it, or they're going to be angry about it. In general, if you were a kid, or even if you are married, or even if you are in a relationship with such a person, they don't want you to exhibit feelings that make them feel uncomfortable. So they're not okay with you feeling grief. They're not okay with you being upset. An example would be that someone is cheating on his wife, and his wife finds out about the affair, she's a Vera, and she decides to stay and work on it. You can watch my previous video about Veras. And the husband expects her to be over it within a few days and say, hey, why are you so stuck in the past? Why don't you just move on? And he is not intellectually and emotionally capable to understand that for an honest reconciliation and a genuine reconciliation, time is going to be needed. The person cannot get over an entire affair of 1 year in 2 days or in 1 week. And they are also afraid of their own feelings, so they are not going to talk about feelings in general, which brings us back to the concrete thinking thing, that they're going, my mother is like that. My mother cannot talk to you about you for 2 or 3 seconds. She's not going to even listen to you, and she's going to wait for her turn to talk about herself. So if you grew up with people like that, The author says that you may had your needs met, you may even could have been in a rich household, and you feel a profound sense of loneliness. And he said something that really stuck with me. He said there is no such thing as accidental loneliness. There is nothing about your existence that explains the loneliness. If it came from somewhere, it came from your family. And a lot of the times, people are ashamed when they say that I feel so empty, I feel so unhappy. And the author may say, hey, you had food, we paid for your education, we paid for your everything, and you're still talking back, you're ungrateful, you're toxic, you're this, you're that, but maybe they didn't meet any of your emotional needs. And I'm not the kind of person that I like to dwell on the past too much, but the problem is that if you get used to being around people like that, emotionally mature people, then you tend to marry them or you tend to become friends with them because you are okay with the familiar and your needs are never met. And you put yourself in a loophole that I believe the first step is actually to identify that your parents are like that this abuse happened to you. And of course, this abuse can exist with other types of abuse as well, like physical, financial, sexual, doesn't have to be only emotional. Not that emotional is not important. The other thing about this type of person is that they engage a lot in extreme thinking, black and white thinking, and a person is all good or all bad, like in Splitting, according to the book, in the sense of they are not capable of accepting differences in opinions, and they are not capable of understanding complexity. So if you say to a person like that, I want you to call me once a week instead of calling me at random times and demanding I pick up, they're going to say, wow, you're a horrible daughter, you don't love me. So you hate me, huh? You never want to hear from me again. They cannot understand that setting a boundary or saying that something is inconveniencing doesn't mean that you don't love someone or you don't want someone in your life. It could mean a lot of things, that you are overwhelmed, that you're not comfortable, and you're also not allowed to have different political opinions, you're not allowed to have different lifestyle opinions, you're not allowed to have a different sexual orientation than them. And honestly, I was reading and getting triggered and reading and getting triggered, and I needed multiple breaks. So if you want to get this book, I suggest to not read it all at once, because I made the mistake of reading it in one day, and then I was so mad. I was mad at everything because I was thinking, wow, so things were actually worse than I thought. Another thing that really impressed me, and I don't find in other places, is that it explains that a lot of people who find themselves in this situation, they still end up trying to win over the emotionally mature person, in my opinion, the toxic person, over and over and over again, and all of their life is, again, in my opinion, wasted trying to fix things with their parents or with the person who is abusing them this way, and they never go anywhere. And every time it's a torture that you try and you fail and you try and you fail, and the other person is never happy. Or if you have siblings, they play favorites, and maybe they like the appearance of one sibling more than yours, or maybe they like something about them more than you, or usually the person who is more like them gets the preferential treatment. Thank God I do not have siblings. If I did, we would have more damaged people walking around. But I felt really sorry for that because I saw it on Kim and his sister, that his sister was clearly the sibling who is low IQ like my in-laws, and they preferred her, and Kim was getting the leftovers. And to give you a very easy example, his sister, she got very expensive braces growing up, and Kim's teeth, when we first got married, his teeth were in horrible condition. Horrible, not just aesthetically. We went to a very good orthodontist that was recommended by my father's doctor, because me and my father had many problems with our bone structure and our wisdom teeth, so we know some very good doctors. And the doctor said to Kim that the way his teeth are arranged is going to result in them being damaged prematurely, and when he's 40, he's not going to have any functioning teeth. And he said that to his mother, and his mother would always say, well, we spent too much for your sister and there's nothing we can do about you. So we had to pay 4,000 euros to get him adult braces, and now his teeth are fine. But this is an example of, hey, my daughter got it, but we already spent the money we were going to spend, so cope on your own, whatever. And If that was just one occasion, I would be understanding, but with Kim, they were like that with everything. Another thing that really impressed me, and it was very validating, is that people like that, emotionally mature, they do not tolerate individuality. They feel threatened by individuality. So either you end up estranged from them or you end up enmeshed. And the more they are like you, the more they want to be enmeshed with you. They don't want you to move away from them. They don't want you to separate from them. They don't want you to have your own career. They want to know where you are at all times. And a good example is that the woman gets married and she moves with her husband into a different town. And 1 month after, her parents move in the same neighborhood without even asking her. That's enmeshment. And they are not also willing to understand and treat the child like the adult that it has become. That there is always having to be this parent-child relationship where you're ordering the other adult and you're never on an equal grounding, which is, again, there are people who say you shouldn't talk about Asian culture. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk so much shit that I'm going to be the face for whatever is wrong with Asian culture, and if you don't like it, you can always watch someone else who talks about trying Korean snacks, because someone needs to point out this cancer. I think that Asian culture promotes and embraces enmeshment and never leaving the nest and tolerating those immature people forever. So the result of all of this mess in your life is you grow up as an adult that you didn't have a childhood. You're trying to survive, so you could be having CPTSD, you could be having depression, you could be having poor boundaries, and you get victimized over and over and over, and you're thinking, okay, now what? And this is the part where the book completely failed me, in the sense of it promised on the title how to heal. So after I got triggered as fuck with all of this mess, I was thinking, okay, let's go on the healing part. And the healing part is a huge disappointment, in the sense of it offers a lot of very good techniques. I knew all of them, but you don't have to be a freak like me, on what to do with your parents. For example, it offers the technique of going no contact. It offers the technique of actually spending limited time with your parent and talking about only safe topics, or refusing to discuss specific topics, or not meeting them alone, or not staying for a long time. It offers a variety of techniques that they're very, very useful when it comes on coping, on how to cope. The title of the book should have been How to Cope, not How to Heal, because it says that you're going to have to accept that you will never have the kind of parent that you wish you had, like a loving, kind, saying hi at you person, but you are going to learn to build a different type of relationship with them, which is essentially either compromising or coping, but no way it's healing. So I think in that case, it didn't deliver what it was promising. And yes, if you want to not go completely no contact, let's say that if you cut off your mother, who is the super toxic person, you don't want to lose everyone else. So you want to find techniques to manage your interactions with her, but that's about it. And I don't think that you are actually healing this way, because I have used all of those techniques and I have reached a very comfortable state of detachment. But in no way I can say that I healed from all that. And I know that because when something bad happens, my rage is the rage of 1,000,000 lions or 1,000,000 tigers. It's not of a person who says, oh, that's how they are, nothing we can do about it. Let's just talk about the newest TV show. When this happens, I'm the type of person that, like I said, I have to excuse myself, because when it comes to my mother-in-law especially, that sees a cockroach in human form, I want to grab her with one hand and smash her head on the wall until her brains spill on my face. So I think I have a long way when it comes to healing, especially when it comes to the Asian side of the family. And okay, to not make this video an hour of rambling, I would give the book a 7 out of 10, in a sense of excellent description of disorders, amazing validation, in a sense of the things that they bother me. And people say, Confucius said to respect your elders. Yeah, that's bullshit. Especially said that we live in the 21st century. I don't care what Confucius said, and I'm not going to respect someone and obey them just because they're old or just because they're a parent. Being an old person and being a parent is not a personality trait. And also I can respect them from a distance, like the no contact type of distance, the couple of countries away distance, without having to obey them. And being old or being a parent doesn't give you the birthright to micromanage other adults. That was so great, and whoever bothers me, especially if they're Asian, I'm going to shove that book down their throat. So in that sense, it was a very good buy. When it comes to coping, it also gives excellent techniques, and it loses 3 points for the following reasons. Reason number 1, it should have been a cheaper book. Reason number 2, it should have been saying the low IQ cockroach people and not the emotionally immature people, because this is way too nice, way too, like, they don't deserve it. Are you telling me that a person who's actually crippling you for life is just emotionally immature? For me, emotionally immature is someone who collects Pokemon cards as an adult, not someone who's actually ruining my life. So you're gonna say you're not a mental health professional, who cares? Well, I'm the one giving the review, so -1 point for that, for the sugar coating. And the reason number 3 is that there was actually 0 when it comes to healing. And I'm in the exact same spot where I started, but a lot more triggered, because I learned all of that crap, and I realized that I have been abused in more ways than I knew before I started reading. So overall, the book also needs a trigger warning that, yeah, don't just get it with a cup of tea, you're going to be upset and end up with a stomachache. It happened to me. So that's all for today. If you want, I can add the book on my Amazon bookstore, so you can get it and they can get a commission from Amazon. But again, no one is paying me, so the reviews are going to be honest. To the people who sent me things to review, thank you very much. I'm going to order them, and once they come, I'm going to review them, okay? Thank you for watching.